You're standing in a mud brick courtroom in ancient Mesopotamia, and the judge just sentenced a rapist's wife to be raped in his place. Not a fine, not prison, but his wife. That's not an exaggeration. That's an actual documented law, carved and preserved for over 3,000 years. And it wasn't even the strangest part of the system. Let's stack a few more. If a man raped an unmarried woman, he had to pay her father silver, then marry her, whether she wanted that or not. Refusing the marriage wasn't an option for him. Choosing anything else wasn't an option for her. If she was already married, the punishment escalated fast. Death was on the table. Castration was on the table. And in the most infamous clause of the whole system, the victim's husband could legally rape the attacker's wife in return. Yeah, sit with that one for a second. Assyriologist Martha Roth, who translated these law tablets from cuneiform, has spent decades trying to explain this system to modern readers without flattening it into something simpler than it was. It doesn't get simpler. It gets worse the closer you look. Because here's the part that actually explains why any of this existed. This wasn't written to protect women. It was written to protect property. A woman's body legally belonged to her father until marriage, then to her husband after. Rape wasn't treated as a crime against her. It was treated as a crime against the man who owned the damaged goods. That's why the payment went to her father, not to her. That's why marrying your attacker could count as the fix. It kept everything inside the family instead of leaving a woman used and unmarriageable. Historian Gerda Lerner, who spent her career tracing exactly this pattern across the ancient world, called this the legal architecture of patriarchy. Not an accident of one weird civilization. The operating system underneath most ancient law. Real quick, if that phrase alone doesn't make you want to know how bad it gets from here, I don't know what will. Subscribe now, because I promise this channel gets exactly this uncomfortable again, on purpose. Okay, back to it. Picture an actual case. A married woman, alone gathering water outside the city wall. Women had to do this daily, it wasn't optional. Attacked by a man from a neighboring household. Under the law, she has to prove she screamed. If she was inside the city and nobody heard her scream, the law could rule her complicit. Guilty for not being loud enough while being assaulted. Historian Karen Ria Nemet Najat, who's documented daily life in Mesopotamia in exhaustive detail, points out that this "did she scream" standard shows up again and again in the record. Proof was never really about what happened to her. It was about whether a witness could confirm it happened properly. Here's the twist, though. The part that actually explains why this system started to crack. The wife-for-wife retaliation clause backfired constantly. It punished a completely innocent woman for her husband's crime, and even by the standards of the time, that started causing real problems. Families refusing to comply. Judges quietly not enforcing it. Historians still argue about exactly when enforcement stopped versus when it was simply written out. But the clause built to be the harshest punishment in the whole system became the one nobody actually wanted to carry out. So somewhere between written into law and people looking at it and going, wait, no. You get the first cracks in a system that treated a woman's body as someone else's property to begin with. That system didn't die on these clay tablets. It got exported, rewritten, softened, renamed, and versions of "Did you scream loud enough" survived in courtrooms for literal thousands of years after these tablets were buried in the dirt. So next time someone tells you the justice system still has consent laws stuck in the past, you now know exactly how far back the past actually goes. Ask the people around you, even though the laws got slightly better around this, did people ever change? This channel exists because history skips this stuff. Not because it's boring, because it's uncomfortable. Subscribe, drop a comment on which detail got you the most, and if you know someone who thinks ancient law means dusty and irrelevant, send them this one. It's neither.